I am honored to be here today to facilitate this discussion. And I am so excited with the accomplished group of panelists who will help us explore this work. Kwame and Jaden set us up perfectly for the conversation with these three accomplished and dedicated educators. They have unique stories, but there are common themes, and their work provides powerful evidence of what is possible. Teacher voice and powerful learning go hand in hand. So it's my pleasure to introduce the panel by beginning with Tanisha Siddell, who is the director of the Magnet Theater program at Norland Middle School in Miami, where she has taught 6th through 8th grade for the past 16 years. She also happens to be Jaden's theater teacher. And she had the opportunity to appear alongside him in Moonlight as Principal Williams. So let's welcome Tanisha to the stage. Our next panelist is Terry Applewhite-Grosso, who is chair of the science department at Urban Academy Laboratory High School in New York, where she has taught inquiry-based science for 25 years. Let's give Terry a warm welcome. And rounding out this morning's panel is Aaron Benham, a veteran educator and labor leader. Aaron serves as the president of the Meridian Federation of Teachers and as a member of the Connecticut State Board of Education. Join me in welcoming Aaron to the stage. Hi. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a great discussion. We've had the pleasure of meeting each other and talking a little bit about our work earlier. So why don't we jump in, because there are so many of your stories that I want folks to hear, because I know they will connect with your work. Tanisha, can I start with you?
Sure.
Great. So I know one of your drivers is equity.
Yeah.
Right? You have talked about the opportunity for all students to experience the sort of education Jaden talked about and Jaden had. So no matter where they're coming from, how they come to school that day, et cetera. So tell us some of the work you do so that you live that in your teaching every day.
Yes, I really believe in that. I think it's so important for us to, number one, connect with each child. To treat them as individuals and connect with them one-on-one. And then also, it's really important to, whatever they are really interested in, whatever they're interested in, I try to use that on a daily basis to really teach them and to apply it to their particular life. And so with Jaden and Alex, who was also in Moonlight in the lead, as the leads, they, every day they come to school, they're amazing boys. And every day we do a warm-up, we start class with a warm-up, and that really kind of breaks the barriers and allows them to get to know me, I get to know them on a different field. So it's not like they're sitting in a chair the entire time. You know, we're getting up, we're moving around, we're on the floor, we're rolling around. And I think because they're interested in it, they take hold to it. And I think that's really the important thing.
Absolutely. Terry, would you talk a little bit about, first, you helped build an intentional community. It didn't just happen. This school dedicated to learning through inquiry, which actually, I think Tanisha alluded to as well, just in her classroom experience, and making sure that you demonstrate student learning in much more expansive and meaningful ways. So, where are you on that journey of creating that intentional community right now?
Well, we really feel, as a group, we felt that assessment really drives the way that we teach our students. And back in around 2001, we had a waiver from the New York State assessment, the standardized test, and then they tried to take it. So we had to fight. so that we could assess our students in a different way. And we came together with a group of other like-minded schools, and now we have a consortium that use performance-based assessment tasks. And the great thing about those is that they come out of the students' interests, right? So they have to demonstrate a rigorous method of showing what they have learned, but it comes from their own question. They do their own research, and they get their own answers. So we really think it's important for them to be able to learn how to learn. And it's the sort of learning that sticks with them forever. So it's not just that they come back and they say, oh, I remember everything that I learned about fly genetics 20 years ago, whatever. Yeah. It's not just that, but they come back and they talk about being an expert on something, being able to defend their work in front of outside people, being able to talk about the way that they've learned things. And that, it comes out in our classes because our classes are designed to get them ready to do that. It's not just about content, it's about process. And our classes are designed to go with the students' interests. That's part of what inquiry is. And that actually works for us as well, because one thing that happens, every PBAT a student does, you have to come up with something that's all different. Something new will come up. You end up having to learn something new every single time. So we are just as engaged as the students are, and we are constantly learning from each other, from them, and it just really keeps us really grounded and moving forward. It keeps you on top of your game.
Wonderful. It sounds about as non-scripted as a rich learning experience could be, which is, you know, I think when you hear the phrase assessment drives the way we teach our students, you know, the hair on the back of your neck stands up when that phrase is out of context. But then when you talk about how the assessments come out of the students' interests, it is, you know, it is a revolutionary way of thinking about meeting the needs of students and that powerful learning too. I think, Erin, I think you have a great perspective to add because, you know, everything I've read about Meriden, makes it sound like collaboration is a key to powerful learning for both school staff and students, and true collaboration, not, you know, where like we collaborated with the union, which really means like, well, we told the union we were going to do this, right? But like yours, you know, Meriden stories of collaboration are like you holding a place that the union owns around collaboration. And so what is the union's role in assuring teachers have time, knowledge, and support they need to succeed to create sort of these similar powerful learning experiences?
Very much, you're very correct about saying the collaboration is very intentional, I would say, in Meriden. It is not something that came overnight. It is something we very intentionally do. Listening to Terry as she was talking about her students and what makes them learn better, we tried to do that for our students, but we do it for our teachers also. And I think that's the most important piece that many districts forget, that we need to do that special learning, that special PD, professional learning, for our teachers needs to be there, and the benefits will be great for our students. And in Meriden, we try to do that, and we are a part of the team. We're not just at the table, we are a team, and that team is not just me and the superintendent. It is our administrative union, it is our teachers union, my executive board, my executive council, and the empowerment of many, many of my teachers. And it's very important. We learn from each other, just like how Terry referred to how best kids learn from each other, so do our teachers.
I appreciate you mentioning that because actually I've heard an intentionality in all three of you that, you know, one, none of this is an accident.
No.
Right? It takes work, and it takes that intentionality, like going into your school day and going into first period and second period, or the length of your school day, intentionally setting yourself up to succeed with students in these ways. I also want, because you also touched on, giving students a lot of autonomy as well. You know, part of this session is about teacher voice, and I want to get to some of that. But because all of you started by talking about how students lead some of this work, it's student to student with each other, or students really drive how you prepare for them to be successful in the classroom, and the way they embrace and, you know, like help control lessons or even shape them. I would love for each of you to talk about the role of student voice in their learning. How do you, again, and again, intentionally, how do you reflect on the role you want students to take charge of in their own learning? Natisha, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it goes back, like what I said before, to what they're interested in. I think that's the key that, you know, some teachers forget, or the administration or the district. They forget about what is important to them. How can we take what's important to them, match it to our curriculum, and build a bridge together? And I think that's the issue, you know, when it talks about that. I also think that we have to provide, you know, equity. So there has to be equity amongst all the districts. There has to be equity in the state. The problem is not everybody has access. And so when you don't provide access, then there's some kids that are not going to get what they need. And that is a problem because, okay, then they're not going to cultivate that particular talent. Then what happens to them? Then they can't get a scholarship, it builds to this. And so I think it's important for us to really kind of find out what they're interested in, figure it out, map with our curriculum, take what they're doing, and mesh them together. I think that's important.
Yeah, thank you so much. Terry, do you want to expound on, again, I feel like student voice and student power in their learning is a cornerstone of the consortium work, but can you expound on that a little bit?
It is, and it's not that they can do anything they want. It's not quite that. But we try to come up with areas that lend themselves to students being interested in the work, and also being open enough to let them take that area to whichever path they're going to feel most comfortable with. So in a class, I don't have every student doing something entirely different. That would be a little overwhelming. But if I've narrowed my focus enough, they can each choose a place where they can really attack a question, a meaningful question that they have themselves. If we're lucky, it's a question that people don't really know what the answer to is yet, so they can feel like they're part of a community that are trying to find answers to questions that haven't been answered.
Erin, what would you say? Again, so much of your work is creating that intentional community of collaboration, which is about, you know, which is adult focused on the surface. But how does that then support students taking charge of their learning as well, deeper down?
I would say at the biggest change probably in our district is our 2 high schools that are so immersed in personalized learning now that they're choosing what they want to learn, what their interests are. We're meeting their interests, or they're telling us, this is what I want to do. We just recently went over construction and had major construction projects in both our high schools. And we had some of our students that actually worked on the construction site because that's what their goal was to do. I mean, there's nothing better than that. They had hands-on right there. Received high school credit for it. It's something that they wanted to go on to be an engineer, to be an electrician, all those types of things. We also, our students every year in our district take what we call a Getting to Know You survey. And it's a very good tool for our teachers that we're trying to get out to our teachers much more, because it is a time-consuming thing to access all the time. But we do try to promote that as much because it lets our students tell us those little bits of pieces about them that we might not know. And when you need to reach out to one of them, you're having a difficult time, or they're having a difficult time, it's a great tool to go in there and realize, oh, okay, you know, he loves hockey. He's, you know, he's a Celtics fan, you know, and that helps. That's very helpful when you have, you know, I'm a middle school teacher also, but, you know, for most of my career, and you have 120 students, it's a little difficult to get to know each one of them. But so that gives our students get voice to us through that way, and our high schools very much so in the last couple of years through personalized learning.
What a great tool.
Yeah.
You know, again, the better you know your students, the better you can advocate for what they need, because they're telling you what they need.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, and I do want to get to, I want us to talk, because we've taken these great glimpses of what powerful practice and powerful learning can look like, right? So, and I know there are a lot of folks out there saying, you know, but here's the barrier I have to what you do, right? Or here's the barrier I have to getting to where your union's got the power to insist on this intentional collaboration. Or we're not a consortium school yet, and I don't know even how to start that. So let's talk about barriers for a minute, because none of this was magic, right? Kind of back to that intentionality piece. You all had barriers to break down to get to this, and maybe even some daily barriers. You know, I think, for example, as we talk about students having power to shape their learning, one of the barriers I can think of is when an administrator, and I would love to know how you got into your character role to play a principal. When an administrator is afraid of sharing power with her staff or his staff, my fear is that creates a climate and a culture in a school building where educators are then afraid of sharing power with their students, right? Because there is always like a looking over your shoulder feeling. And I do feel like it is the union's role to help break that down and show that power shared is actually power grown, and it can create a much more fulfilling atmosphere for teaching and learning. So as we think of those barriers, if you can think of specific ones, either you broke down, your staff broke down, or in the solidarity of your union, you worked on together so that you could access some of these powerful learning conditions.
I think for me, our school is a magnet school, and like Jaden shared, we really try to connect with the students on a different level. But just because it's a magnet school, we don't have any facility, so it's a school. So I literally teach theater in a science lab.
Okay.
Okay, and so those are barriers. We don't have any of, you know, we don't have the black box, we don't have the costumes, we don't have the money to produce musicals or, you know, to have special curriculums come in. We don't have it. And so it's really all about what the students give me and what I give them back and how we create together. And that's it goes back to what I say. It's about equity. Like, so why is it that my magnet school is a certain way and someone else's is a different way? The great thing about my administration is that they are so supportive. And it's really helpful to have, you know, an administrative team that's really supportive. I know that's not all of everyone's story.
It is.
But my administrative team is really supportive in that. And they just kind of take us, you know, wherever. So if we need to compete in Orlando, we'll raise money, you know, to compete.
Yeah.
But the financial barrier, some of our students, their parents work 2 and 3 jobs, so they can't come to the parent meetings. So they can't come to some of the things that the kids are doing. And so it's important for the teachers to really kind of take on that parental role. Okay, so your mom's not here, but I know that she's gonna wanna see a picture of us. I know she's gonna want, let me send this video to her. You know, just kind of connecting on more than just in the classroom. It's hard to teach a child if they don't know if their parents are, you know, there, or if they don't know where they're going to eat the next meal. You know, if the only meal they're going to get is at lunch, and it's a cheese sandwich. So I think barriers in the urban community are financial, of course, and basically it's just about kind of going over those barriers no matter what, reaching beyond the community, reaching, you know, to LA, to New York. Listen, I have a student who is amazing. I sent an email last year of a student who, we did Lion King, the musical, the entire musical. And I sent a clip of him being Simba. This year, I received a call from Lion King on Broadway. We would love to see him. So it's just that mentality, like it's not just about, it's not just about what's in your classroom or what's in your school or what's even in your community. Reach out, go beyond, do something that you've never done before, never seen before.
Really taking advantage of the global reach of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I know you alluded to some barriers around around maintaining your autonomy as a consortium
We're
already.
constantly fighting that battle. But thinking about inquiry teaching in a classroom when the administration is not on your side, I'm fortunate that's who we are. But I've worked with many teachers in other schools where that is not the case. And it is difficult if you are the only one. It is difficult for you to pull that off if no one around you is giving you any support. But what we found is if you can get a group of people in a school, if you can have a few teachers who are working together to support each other, to bounce ideas off of, inquiry teaching is scary at first. And we always tell people, so do one lesson, do one inquiry lesson. And then maybe next semester you'll do 2, right? And maybe 3 people in the school are doing that one inquiry lesson. And then maybe 5 people in the school are doing those inquiry lessons. And eventually, as the students get used to it, and you get a cultural change. And because schools have cultures. And they do change over time, but you have to work to maintain the culture that you want. So I just think it's really important for teachers. We have to support each other. We have to learn from each other. We have to help each other. We have to mentor each other. That's the way we grow. Just like that's the way our students grow, that's the way we grow. And we should always be growing.
That's wonderful. It echoes of what Jeff said yesterday in the afternoon plenary around intentionally supporting each other. And then also just this idea that teachers can be scaffolded into powerful learning practices as well, right? You do not need to suddenly come up with 187 days of powerful learning. If you are moving to a new model, like take it on as you can. Exactly. That's wonderful. Erin, because we share union leadership experiences, I know you could talk a lot about barriers you probably get phone calls about all the time.
Yeah.
But what are some that you've experienced, and where do they come from, and what are you doing about it?
I think most districts, especially this day and age, certainly in Connecticut, we're all experiencing budget. I mean, that's such a big barrier, not having the money, having the room, having the teachers. So I think that's a barrier, and I think you have to be, as you said, you have to get out there and tell your story. And I think that's what makes Meriden such a good collaborative team, because we do tell our story, and we're questioned about that sometimes. Like, why are you always out there? And but you tell your story, it empowers people. It empowers so many of our teachers who have helped us tell our story, and they're leaders. We have so many teachers that have become teacher leaders, and they're still teachers. Randy has said, you don't need to leave that classroom to become a leader, and we have many of them, and we use our teachers in vast ways, and many ways to do that. The barriers, I think time. Our journey in collaboration is started 10 years ago. A very, very small step of, I became the president at that time. It was a different superintendent that I have now, and we need to have better communication. So it was lunch, just the 2 of us, maybe once a month. And that was fine. It was the step in, and we got there. But we were told of things going on after they went on. After they went to the Board of Ed and that type of thing. And that changed with our new superintendent, and we wanted something better. And we brought in the union of our administrators as well, because they're very much a part of it. We still work on there. Both those parties are here with us today. We'll teach. We use Teach to bring our union, administrators union, our superintendent with us, and so forth. We keep working on it. And I think people have to understand it. It doesn't just, it is about relationships, but you can still have it and not have this, this feeling of kumbaya relationships with everybody. It is possible to do. I mean, we have a district of, almost 700 teachers, many administrators. You have to get through all those barriers, and you have to work and know that we're at the table, we can agree, we can disagree, we're gonna still move forward. And it's persistence, it's work, and not everyone's gonna be thrilled with that avenue, perhaps. I don't like that relationship. You know, maybe it's too, you know, and you have to realize when, I think with teachers, and everybody knows who's teachers, anytime you do a change and you think it's great, you've got to expect someone in your school is not going to think that way. And it could be many people in the school are not going to think that way. And that, I think, is the barrier for our teacher leaders, for the union, that we have to get with them, give them the support, give them the tools, make them understand, give them the time, that type of thing. But it's time, and there are barriers. They're there. We all have contracts, and we have that. Well, most of us have contracts. We have them for a reason. They have to be upheld. But we have to find innovative ways to get around it because we don't have the money, we don't have the resources that we had, you know, when I started 36 years ago. So that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with something.
Yeah. What I appreciate about what you said is that it takes education actually to make sure people understand that collaboration does not mean the absence of tension. Right? Or even the absence of disagreement.
Right.
Collaboration means you are persisting to solve a problem instead of winning a fight.
Right.
And I think that it's worth making sure we understand that as part of the intentionality, right? Or the intentionality you're creating in your different classroom climates and school climates, and that you cannot be in a living, breathing system like a school building and have an absence of tension.
Right.
Like, it's there. It is knowing what to productively do with that tension and making sure that tension doesn't become toxic, and making sure that people are comfortable sitting in it until the problem gets solved. That ends up being powerful examples of learning for our students to see that adults work together to solve problems. And I do appreciate that the opposite of a principal who is too scared to share power or doesn't want to share power with students is the example of your superintendent coming here and being happy to be part of a team. That is the sort of district atmosphere that then intentionally seeps into every corner of your school buildings, right? Where when students see adults collaborating and working through tension or working through problems, and solving the real problems of budget issues, right? As others try to create this world of scarcity for public education, students realize they see themselves as is worth fighting for, right? Their experience is worth fighting for. All of you have alluded to the work you've done telling your story. And Erin, I appreciate that because again, it's echoes of Randy's homework for us, quite frankly, yesterday, where she said, it is imperative for us to tell our stories. We have to share these experiences of powerful learning. And teachers we are well known for not, finishing an exhilarating school day and looking around the community like, who can I tell about this? There's a powerful lesson I had today, and the way I was like cooking with gas, and as union leaders, I never got a call that said, my principal honored my contract today. I just wanted to let you know, and so, thinking of Randy's homework from yesterday and thinking of teacher voice, right? How the two go hand in hand. You cannot have powerful learning if teachers don't feel some power, some agency in shaping that learning. When you are not invited to a panel at AFT's Teach, how do you tell your story? Or how do you lift up colleagues or see colleagues tell their story of their powerful work?
For myself, I think sometimes, and this didn't happen until you kind of vested a little bit. Like, once you've taught a little while, I think you begin to get, more bold just because you see the needs. And you just, if you're passionate about it, you just can't help but say something. It's not within you not to say anything. And so you have to have those courageous conversations. That's what I call them. Having a courageous conversation with either a colleague or an administrator, and it's not about, you don't have to be disagreeable to disagree. There are ways that you can talk and to let someone know what your problem is. And so I tell you, let someone know. let's talk, talk to your union, talk to your administrative team in a way that is conducive, that they will accept. So of course we're not going to go to someone and like, well, what is going on here? There's a way that you have to do that to get what you need. And as long as you're successful in the classroom, and the fact that you're here means you want to be successful. It means that you want to empower your students, you want to empower your district, you want to do better. And so if you take that same passion that led you here back to school, I think, just have those courageous conversations with someone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Terry?
We try to share, right? We try to share it with all the schools within our consortium, and then we try to spread that to other schools. We try to bring other people in so that we can talk about what we're doing and what they're doing, so that more people can know what's going on. We try to talk with our parents about it. Our parents at our school are huge advocates for us. And they fight with us just like we fight. And so it's just important that everybody knows what's going on so that everybody can bring the fight.
Yeah, thank you. Erin? How do you and your local unions share the stories of the work you're doing?
I think, I was thinking when they were speaking, we have a lot of, in our district, we have a lot of different programs that empower our teachers, and I think that's part of telling the story. We have Meriden Teachers Sharing Success. So these are certain teachers that are just phenomenal in the classroom. And they're known to all our teachers at both levels that go visit that classroom, see what they do, talk to them. It's, and it works, and it's a very nice program. We have a leadership academy that we've had for about 5 years that empowers our teachers to become leaders, and not necessarily administrators. Some of them do go on to become administrators, but it gives them to create a project in their school, to get the momentum in their school from their colleagues, and sometimes that's all it's takes. Teachers get a little bit of success, they feel confident, it sort of motivates, it moves, it changes, and the end result is the change of the culture of that school. Knowing that you're not going to please everybody at that school, but it is contagious. We all want to work in a school that is friendly and safe, and that you want to come to work every day and be excited and share your thoughts and share your concerns. And so we do have a lot of programs like that the union is very much involved in, the selection, who goes in, who we use for these type of programs, when the superintendent and I speak at different functions, who comes with us, what teachers come with us to speak with us, because they're the experts.
Sharing this.
They're the ones that, if we have coaches in our high school. I'm not a high school coach. I could tell their story, but we take them, let them tell the story. This is what we've created. And it's important to do that you keep your teachers in mind. You listen to them. They're the ones that are right up front. And when there's a problem, you need to address it together.
That's right. That's right.
And share your success stories. Share the success stories of your students, not just with their parents. Right. Share them with the community. Call the media. Just try to share as much as you can.
I love that. Be shameless about sharing.
Right.
And I love that all of you, we did not get to it this morning, but I do think it is worth having conversations in our, in our departments, in our school buildings, and our unions about how parents are part of that powerful learning experience as well, right? How you involve parents in the powerful learning of their students. All of you alluded to the role families play in partnership, right, in collaboration, and that is that's a little teaser for tomorrow's conversation as well. So I thank you for naming that. I really appreciate that. This has been really delightful. Erin, Terry, and Tanisha, thank you so much for taking the time to share your practice with us.
You're welcome.
I cannot thank our panelists enough for this wonderful, thoughtful discussion, and again, getting a window into the work you do on behalf of teaching and learning and on behalf of your students. Thank you very, very much. I know we will continue building on this conversation, both in your classrooms, in your school buildings, in your consortium, in your union, in our union of professionals.